So, race 2 at Snetterton for the British GT Championship, and boy was it a mega race, the first race. Loads of battles going on further down the field, especially in the GT4 grouping, and I found it lovely. It was absolutely brilliant, but I've got a couple of people that I want to talk about now. We're going to do a bit of a grid walk. Tom Ferrier, a very good old friend of mine, has basically put his car pretty much on pole for both races. Tom, tell us all the hard work. Well, you've done it, haven't you? So tell us the hard work, what goes into it and running a successful team.
Lots of time, good people, yeah, and all these wonderful people here.
The team. There they are.
Yeah. I just make the tea. So, yeah.
You just make the tea.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
No, we're having a good weekend. So we'll obviously won the first one. The pit stop penalty in this one, so that's going to affect us a little bit. But the other car's P3, so it hasn't got a penalty. So yeah, hopefully we can do it one of the cars again.
Good. So hopefully they'll bring it back in one bit and enjoy themselves.
That's the plan generally. Yeah.
Tom, you're a star. Thanks very much. Right then. Okay. So we are going to go down now to the Beach Dean car, who is being interviewed actually by the circuit commentary, but I'm going to butt in. Sorry, hello young man, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Perfect day for ice creams.
Fabulous day for ice cream.
Good for business, it pays for the racing.
Well,
how's it been going? Talk to us.
Well, the first race wasn't particularly good. You know, from our point of view, she looks a bit battered and bruised at the moment.
Bless her.
So, and I think it was hard. But as I've just said, stewards and clerk of the course have dealt with that, and that's the critical thing.
So talk us through what did happen. Can you divulge or not?
Yeah, I think there's too much argy-bargy. You know, we're driving 600 to 700 horsepower cars around tracks that we have to be a little bit more respectful. And you know,
it's not touring cars, is it?
Well, it's not touring cars because we've got proper cars. So they have the crowds, we have the proper cars. So for me, you know, being the old git of the group, I just think everyone just needs to calm down a little bit, concentrate on your racing. If you're quick, you're going to get past, but you don't have to get past on the first corner. And just let's have proper racing. And it's not a question of the damage or anything else. We all acknowledge that. But, you know, you're only in the car for half an hour. I don't want to spend 4 minutes of it in the pits watching people put new tyres on. I'd rather be out.
And they are beautiful bits of kit, like you said, and the front splitters and the dive planes and stuff. They're works of art, really. But cheer up, have a good race.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. What you got to remember as well is they are proper race cars. So you start banging these around, and performance-wise, it affects it. So anyway, no, listen, I'm really happy.
I know you are. You're driving. I'm still with the microphone. See you later. Have fun. Good luck. Right, okay, let's go further down the grid. Bruce, have you thought, so by the way, I'm being joined in the commentary box by the legend Bruce Jones. He's in the commentary box now. Bruce, can you give me any pointers of who you think we need to have a chat to, or shall I just stumble across the Rick Parfitt?
Yes, there's a story there.
Yes. Right, hold on one second, follow me. Right, let's have a little squeeze round, excuse me. Right then. So we've got Callum McLeod, who was chasing that pack. So we'll have a little interview with these guys, if you don't mind. Hey, Callum, how are you?
Yeah, all very well, thanks. Yourself?
You're looking like you're hot already. You haven't even started yet.
It is warm in here.
So tell us about the pack. You were chasing the pack in the first race. Didn't have quite the pace, car, tyres. Just what was the reason?
To be honest, our BOP's well out here. The car feels great. Team done an amazing job, but I mean, it's the same category circuit as Silverstone, but with all stop-start corners opposed to momentum corners where we can carry the speed onto the straight. So we're just slow on the straight line, and I mean, we get there eventually, but it's that mid-range, it takes us a long time to get there.
And then you've got to brake again and slow. Exactly. It's quite a technical track now as well.
Yeah, it's a great circuit. Like I say, the car feels really good, so we'll just race and do our best to see what happens.
Good. Well, you're nearly at the sharp end of the grid, so good luck, and I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
Right then, Bruce. So that was the other Bentley. I need to find the other Bentley. Right then. I've got him sorted. Oh, there's Julian Westwood there. So a legend in his own right. Right then, let's have a quick word with... Can we have a quick word? Cool, the doors are light. Right then. Hello there, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Talk us through what your tactics are going to be in this race.
Try and overtake as many people as I can off the start.
Okay, and what happened in the pit stop with Rick in the first race earlier today?
It was just a late call, really. I think Rick came in a little bit late. Everyone got a bit flustered, and it was all just a bit rushed, to be honest. So we've learned from our mistake, and it won't happen again.
Because he literally, as the safety car sort of came out, you just swerved in at the last minute, and it was all a bit unprepared, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it was a late call by everyone, but it's one of those things. You know, you make these mistakes, and you know, fingers crossed, nothing like that will happen again.
Has Rick calmed down now then?
He was all right, actually. I was really bad when I got out of the car, but Rick was pretty happy, so...
Cool,
yeah.
That's the main thing. Right, cool. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Right, so let's have a look at the McLaren on row 9. There's Rick over there, just behind us. Row 9, what car number is that? Number 56. Let's have a quick look. Joe Osborne, let's have a quick look. So Bruce, while I haven't been down the gym for a while because I'm not racing, do you want to just take over for 2 seconds?
Yeah, I will. Thanks very much, Charlie. I'm hearing the puffing and panting, and the driver Charlie just spoke to was Ryan Ratcliffe, who's sharing with Rick Parfitt Jr., and Rick brought the car in under the safety car for the pit stop. Everyone came in at the same time. He came in second and returned in about 10th place, and that's why they tumbled down the order. But back down to panting Charlie.
Okay, right, Joe. Windows sorted now.
What's that, sorry?
Your windows sorted.
Yeah, I've got a fresh one. I could cut your arm off now if I wanted to.
You got electric windows now, God. There he goes, there he goes. Listen, go and have some fun. I'm glad to see you've got a circuit map in front of you as well, just in case you forget where you're going.
Yeah, God knows where it goes, left or right. 50-50 chance.
Good luck, we're rooting for you. Have fun.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Right, Bruce, I'm going to make my way back to the commentary box. That's a bit of the grid, and enjoy the next race.
Well done, Charlie. See you in a minute. No puffing and panting when you get back. And he was just talking there to Joe Osborne, who won the GT4 class in this morning's race. If you look now, the wind's blowing much more strongly than it was earlier. The sun is in and out behind clouds. We could have a change of weather. Certainly there have been storms forecast. I thought this morning it looks though they had blown past, having been really pretty loud overnight. But we have 33 cars down there to play, 11 in GT3 at the front and 22 in GT4. And of course the start drivers from race 1 this morning are now the second drivers in the 1-hour race this afternoon. So on that front row, our starters will be Nicky Thiem and Phil Keane. How's that for a pair of fantastic GT3 races in the TF Sport, Aston Martin and the Barwell Lamborghini. The second row should have had Maxime Martin starting in third position, but he didn't do enough laps in qualifying, so he's been put down to 11th out of 11 in GT3. So up goes Marco Sorensen and Darren Turner. These are fantastic names, just showing the sheer strength of the British GT Championship this year. Then the 69 Lamborghini, Johnny Cocker back in sort of full-time racing again, that's good to see, and Johnny Adams. So a lot of Aston Martin work strength down through this grid. We heard from Callum McLeod there, his green, black and white Team Parker Racing Bentley. Championship leader is the 116 Mercedes. Lee Mole will take that over, but Jelmer Berman, the Dutch racer, will kick it off. Doesn't seem to quite have the form here this weekend. And then comes Stuart Moore in the RGN Motorsport Nissan, and Ryan Ratcliffe in the Team Parker Racing number 1 Bentley. Then comes Maxime Martin, demoted to the back of the pack. In GT4, it's Matt Nicol-Jones who'll kick off in one of the Academy Motorsport Aston Martins, and it's the other Century Motorsport BMW M4 number 43 that will start alongside on the front row for the GT4 Challengers. The sister car was the one that started from pole in the first race, Ben Green and Ben Tuck. So for the drivers who started race 1, they get to do the coming home in race 2. Just looking at the TF Sport garage, and there's John Minshaw. Likewise, he's taking over the second role. And dear, we have a car stationary. Will that get fired up? Hopefully still time. The last of the cars just about to move away, but one of the Ginettas at a standstill. So, as you can see, the awnings on the motorhomes, even the caps on the spectators' heads, starting to blow around a bit. Conditions are changing. The flags up and down the pit lane are really a flutter, but I think we have now got everyone underway. That's 33 cars, and there, as you can see, we have a high cloud. But here we have the grid. So it's Nicky Thiem from Phil Keane on the front row, Aston Martin from Lamborghini, and Aston Martin's looking very strong indeed. Marco Sorensen, Darren Turner on row 2, Johnny Cocker in his Barwell Lamborghini, and Johnny Adam on row 3. Then the Bentleys come along in 7th and 10th positions. In between them, Jelmer Berman in the championship leading Mercedes, and Jordan Witt will be, Stuart Moore will be kicking off in the number 24 Nismo. Such a strong car down the straights, but in the first race we saw it maybe having eaten its tyres and struggling towards the end. But who will lead? Don't forget, If you've got a Pro-Am combination, it's the Pro who goes out first, so hopefully less contact down at turn 1. Then Maxime Martin looked for a charge from the 47 Aston Martin. Will Matt Nicol-Jones stay in the lead in GT4? He's starting on pole position. Jack Mitchell back in the saddle again alongside. That car had a problem in the first race. Could have been a puncture, pitted early on. Jan Jonk keeping the international flavour. And Scott Mulvern in the 15th place on the grid, but 4th in GT4 in the Team Parker Racing Mercedes. And then the Patterson Osborne car with Joe kicking off starts from 5th, and they were very, very strong. They came through to win the class in the opening race today. But track conditions possibly different, but just joined by the sleek, the fleet of foot, Charlie Butler Henderson. How's it feel out on the grid? Weather conditions feel very different, even from my bunker here, the commentary bunker.
It's definitely windier. It's still dry, obviously, but it's quite humid. It feels a bit sort of thunderfly-ish, sort of, you know, as if it's going to spit with rain at some point this afternoon. Who knows if it's in the next hour. If it is, great, because it will just cause us even more excitement in the commentary box. Because
we had the one safety car in the first race, not for an accident, simply for a car abandoned off the side of the circuit, one of the McLarens. But right now, look at this pack of cars, and just to reiterate, it's the Pros who start the race now. And those names at the front of the grid: Nicky Team, Phil Keane, Marco Sorensen, Darren Turner. That's just on the first 2 rows. John Minshaw watching from the Barwell Motorsport garage, seeing if his man Keane can do it yet again. But the Aston Martins certainly have looked very, very handy here.
Safety cars bunching them right up. This is going to be a real rocket at the start, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see that little gap between the first gaggle of cars, the first 11, and then the Aston Martin and the BMW on the front row of GT4, with a mere 20 rivals in their class in the background. So, onto the start-finish straight, and the light has gone. Very good start from Jelmer Berman in the Mercedes. But the Aston Martin needs away from pole position, and a super start from Marco Sorensen, who was such a star, working his way up the order from about 9th to, I think, 6th by the end in the opening race. In fact, yes, 6th it was, up to GT4 runners. They love to put up a smoke screen, but I think they've stayed roughly in grid order. But up at the front, who's gaining, who's losing? Looks like Johnny Adam is going wide and maybe regained a position. Dust everywhere, but I think our pole starter, Nicky Team, is in the lead of the gaggle. But what we saw was that Phil Keane lost a position back into 3rd place. So all very tidy at the front. Mercifully, I think in GT4, that gaggle in the background. We got a car with bodywork rubbing, I think. It looks like the Stella, one of the 2 Stella Toyotas, perhaps. Yes, like that's slowing back.
Right rear or right front or something, it looks like. Or could have been. Yeah, definitely a bit of bodywork damage there. And a bit more on the other side.
Oh, that's the... Oh, dearie me, you don't want to be sitting there.
Well avoided. The back.
Well, for Ben Barnicoat, a driver with a considerable amount of experience, I'm afraid a tap up the rear did not help his course there at all. So I can't really put any blame on his shoulders. But sitting there can't have been a nice moment as they came out of the corner.
A safety car, because he didn't look like he had 3 wheels. There you go. So it was sat sort of at an angle. So I knew that one of the tyres had either been punctured or broken, and that has been proven. So unless he gets the car well out of the way,
which he hasn't thus far.
And we got a safety car in the last race for a McLaren that was parked up, but that wasn't really in a dangerous place. So,
well, Nicky Team leading very, very tidily. Phil Keane back.
Justin King, God, there's a name for the bath.
Yes. Well, there's Ben Barnicoat's illustrious career, looking at his car, noticing it's only got 3.5 tyres on it.
I reckon safety car.
Still not saying SC, they're going on to the 2nd lap. Nicky Team's got a good advice. Now it comes the message. Has the car nipped out in front of them to pick up the pack? We'll have to wait to next time. That was a really close
they're on it in that safety car today, aren't they? They really are on it. Yeah, they're good.
Clocking up more laps in the lead.
Yeah, they're having a nice busy day.
They're a lap down. But there you can see the gap between the GT3 runners at the front
just
and
after 1 lap.
The leader in GT4. Of course, they would have seen the signal slightly earlier. You can see the safety car board the back of it at the start of the pit straight. 2 Invictus Racing Jaguars, and unfortunately for the 68 Toyota, that's Senan Fielding, has been given a thump up the rear by looks things. We saw the bodywork smoking as they came out of Palmer on the opening lap.
It didn't look too bad, but it looked bad enough to obviously punch the tyre eventually.
Yes, you can't see the damaged bodywork, but it has been clearly shoved down onto the tyre.
Was that not in the pits the first race as well? Did that come in the pits?
One of them did.
I can't remember which. Didn't it? Yeah.
But so a little hiatus, a safety car leading the pack around with Nicky Team. Brilliant start from pole position. Marco Sorensen getting around into 2nd place. Let's take a look at a replay of the start. On the left of the screen in the blue Aston Martin, Nicky Team alongside
Shocking
is
start
Phil Keane, and he didn't
Phil.
make the best of starts. But look at the start from the Aston Martin in the pit wall side. Well, his nose is in front almost before the start-finish line.
Yeah.
So if it was in front, that wouldn't be a good thing altogether in terms of what you do in racing.
Yeah.
But the field is released. The Nicky team already had 2 car lengths clear by the time they went through Rich's. Right place to be. Much better behaviour from the GT4 runners. Yelmer Berman, you can see in Lee Moll's Mercedes, jinking out to gain the position. Wise thing to do on the start, trying to go past. In fact, there he's right alongside Johnny Adam and put the Mercedes ahead of the Aston Martin. But the Aston Martin fought back.
See if we can see this bit of contact that happens around now. There you go.
Okay.
McLaren and GT. Yeah, McLaren and the Nissan hit. Yeah. And the GT86.
The Toyota GT86.
GT86 and the McLaren. And it looks like they get again. It happens again.
Okay, so the car, the Toyota that was slowed was then in collision.
Nearly had a head-on. That was very, very lucky. So well avoided.
One of the worst places to be in motor racing, sitting facing the wrong way round a corner where people can't see you until they've negotiated the corner.
On turn 3 of lap 1.
Yeah, when people are side by side, 2 or 3 abreast, trying to jostle for position. No such problem at all for the race leader, Nicky team, and right in behind Marco Sorensen. They will start to wind it up as soon as they possibly can, up into 3rd place. Sorry. 2 3s on the door, that means 3rd place in this case for Phil Keane. Tucked in behind Darren Turner, Johnny Cocker, Callum McLeod, Johnny Adam, you can see them weaving away. Yelmer Berman in the Mercedes, tucked in behind him, Maxime Martin. So Martin gained a couple of positions on the opening lap, sort of as you expected him to do, because that car was good enough for 3rd on the grid, but that became 11th when they got an 8th place penalty that put them down to the back of the GT3 pack for not having covered a sufficient number of laps in qualifying. To reiterate, in GT4 it's Matt Nicol-Jones from Jack Mitchell, Scott Malvern and Joe Osborne. They're the top 4.
I'm going to guess probably another lap or so behind the safety car, because the recovery truck's only just got to that stricken McLaren, and with 3 wheels left on its wagon, and there's a happy fan, part of the team. Everyone's been really friendly, haven't they, when they've been filmed for the crew today? All the drivers, they've all waved, they've all smiled. They haven't looked grumpy.
No, they haven't. Well, they've got very little reason to be grumpy, as we pointed out before. Alton Park was a very, very wet race meeting. It was very cold at Rockingham and windy, slightly windy here, but we started. They had a lovely sunny day yesterday, beautiful sunny morning. It may yet come back, but as you said, Zach, just that little air of humidity that could yet presage the arrival of rain. I think we'll get away with it, because I don't see it arriving in an hour, but some of the later races on this packed agenda here at this British GT Championship meeting at Snetterton. So we've got racing until late into the evening. So Tom Ferrier and Mark Farmer just...
Hi, James. So Tom's basically just had a little baby boy. Tom's a little baby boy.
Who can read already. That's remarkable.
Can read already. So Tom's educated him well, obviously. But yeah, so we got the pole, basically the pole Aston, as it were, run by TF Sport, Tom Ferrier Sport, who we spoke to on the grid earlier. Who's a very excited now new parent, bless him.
Well, it's worth pointing out it's double excitement, if you will, because Marco Sorensen is in 2nd place. So both their cars 1 and 2. That's job done so far. Now they've got to think about what comes up when they get to the restart. Of course, the driver at the front of the train has the advantage. They can choose the moment they drop the hammer. They look for the lights going out on top of the safety car, which they haven't yet. That's why the field behind is just getting keeping the heat in the tyres. Another lap. Good thing is the track seems to have been swept. There was a little bit of debris on the circuit coming off that McLaren, but that is being taken away.
A very expensive bit of carbon, I would have thought.
Yeah, and that's the Track Club car. So Adam Ballon, the car's owner, does not get to play this afternoon.
That's a real shame, though.
Which is a shame, because they were well placed in the championship. They were 3rd at the start of this race. Now here's the Lamborghini that didn't end race 1 looking quite as pristine as it started it, and there was a collision in the pit lane. I heard some of the crew talking about it.
I didn't hear that. Go on, tell me more.
Well, I heard one set of mechanics shouting other, so what happened with you in the pit lane?
Oh, right.
But we saw the car coming out of the pit lane with damage that it hadn't arrived with. It had obviously had a clatter with something. Okay. Not as much of a clatter as the 72 McLaren, the Track Club McLaren has had.
Of the car there, it looks fine, but the other side, when we see with the wheel completely shattered, doesn't look so pretty from the other side. But a real shame that, you've waited all afternoon for the 2nd race, and then 4th corner, 4th corner, and then it ends in tears.
Those 2 clattered at the 1st corner. That's when the Toyota got the damage. The Toyota then carried on, and then there was further damage by the time they got to Agostini. So just extraordinary. They got together again.
A bit of red mist, and as Andrew Howard was saying earlier, he's pretty much quids in. He's got a brilliant teammate with Darren Turner. He sells ice creams, the sun is shining, and he's racing an Aston Martin. How cool is that?
And Charlie, when you went around the outside the circuit to bring your car over to the TV compound, you said it's absolutely packed. Great crowd here.
It is absolutely
now, GT4, 43 right in the mix. That's Jack Mitchell. He's running behind the Academy Autosport Aston Martin with Matt Nicol-Jones, who knows these cars forwards, backwards and sideways. There it is with the black bonnet with the yellow flashes. But these Century Motorsport BMWs look very handy indeed. And as we go through the race, they seem to keep their balance. They seem a really well set car. But look at the mixture. We've got Aston Martin, we've got BMW. This is the first 4 positions. Tucked in behind is Scott Morvan in a Mercedes. Then we've got Joe Osborne in a McLaren. So it's a fantastic mix of cars, and GT4 really does seem to be the place to be.
Yes.
For many people, for many, many reasons. There is the car that won GT4 in race 1, which is David Patterson at the wheel. Sorry, Joe Osborne at the wheel. He'll be handing over to David Patterson. And for those who didn't see the first race, we thought Joe Osborne was being a little bit casual, having taken the lead because he was running with the windows down. It turned out one of them shattered. He had to knock it out, and then to stop that dreadful booming, he had to open the other window.
And then you saw him trap my arm in the window. He said,
he was aiming for your neck, you know, knowing Joe.
He said, right, I'm going to. I had to take the mickey out of him about having a little map on the circuit on the steering wheel, so he knew what gear to be in.
You've got to strike back when
he
you
said,
can.
I don't know where to go. I just turn left and right and stop when I need to.
I was about to say the lights are probably about to be out. They are out on the safety car. You could sort of sense the feel behind the reckoning it was about to happen. So it's
this
Nicky
is good
Team.
for Phil Keane. This is good because he didn't get a very good start.
No, he got past. So it's Nicky Team leading the way from Marco Sorensen, Phil Keane, and then Darren Turner. So the odd one out is definitely Phil Keane. The others are all in Aston Martins, and look at them, nose to tail. Here they come. There's Darren Turner in the background.
Phil is not going to let
this
one go this time. He's very, very aggressive. You can see the body language of that Lamborghini. And look, Team, he's
just on it. He's built himself another 2 car lengths over Marco Sorensen. Obviously, being at the front of the pack, you expect to be able to retain the lead, but he really nailed it before Murray's, and I think slightly caught Sorensen out of position. But of course, he was in that tight corner. He could accelerate, whereas if Sorensen had tried it, he'd have understeered straight off. So he had to just wait a nanosecond longer, thus the advantage being gained.
I think I had a chance to speak to the Nissan driver of the Skyline there, but it would be interesting because their car seems really strong at the beginning, but it seems to just wear tyres out towards the end. So it'd be interesting to see the 2 sort of fairly big cars, the Bentley and the Nissan, really sort of doing battle. So that'd be quite good fun to watch that unfold.
No, absolutely so. There they are. They are much bigger cars, but in GT3 and GT4, the cars are performance balanced with a balanced performance thing. They deliver their performance in different ways, which makes it interesting. Some are strong on some circuits, some on others, some are one part of a circuit. Very, very tight indeed.
Close.
And I think we just had a change of position. Ben Green has gone up to 4th in the GT4 class in the second of those two BMWs and pushed Joe Osborne back. Joe must have been pushing the window out at the time or something.
Well, Joe pretty much was pushing that BMW round Agostini. They were just touching, but that's run his racing, that's fine. But I agree with what Andrew Howard was saying and the fact that people are being too aggressive. These are beautiful bits of machinery, worth a lot of money, and need to be driven properly and sensibly. So
no, quite so, and that's what draws the fans in as well. A lot of people come here because they love the look, but also the sound of these GT3 and GT4 cars. I heard people talking to the drivers up and down the autograph signing session that was packed in the lunch break, and that's it. You have to remember that people like these cars even when they're standing still. It's a spectacle, but so much more when they're being driven by the likes of Joe Osborne right to the limit of the circuit there.
With his arm out the window, cruising.
And again, another lovely touch as we watch is that Jonathan Palmer, with all his circuits, puts corner names out so they can be seen. We've just seen the banner that says bomb holes, another on the centre straight, etc., which is brilliant for people. It helps us place the cars, but also it's good to know the corner names.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you always have to learn the corner names.
So this is Callum McLeod from Johnny Adam, brace of Scots running behind Johnny Cocker. Cocker in 5th place in the second of the Barwell Lamborghinis. And it's again super close up to Wilson and beyond. 75, Johnny Adam has won so many races in Aston Martins. In fact, he was a winner here in an Aston Martin 12 months ago. Won the opening race with Derek Johnston. But lots of jiggling of driver lineups over the course of the 12 months. And many different pairings. And right now, of course...
And you can sense that the pros are in the car because you can see the body language of the car. It's been driven slightly quicker, but look how close they all are as well. It's very evenly matched. Okay, let's not talk about weight and penalties and things like that from ballast that they have to carry, but from a driver's point of view, the championship do a really good job to get everything as close as possible.
Now, if they all come in nose to tail, when they make their pit stops around the halfway point of the race, 3 cars, the first 3 home in race 1 this morning, have to serve time penalties. An extra 10 seconds for the car that's leading the race. There it is going into Brundle. 5 seconds for the Barwell Lamborghini. There it is going into Brundle and the Jetstream Motorsport car, but that's just coming through now with the orange flashes on the side. That has the disadvantage of being pushed down to the back of the grid. That's got an extra 7 seconds at a standstill. And providing the teams around them stay close, they move up and these ones fall back. But that is a feature of the British GT Championship on a double race day, and it really can make a huge difference. But right now, Nicky Thiem is doing what he's expected to do, which is stretching his advantage. 1.684 seconds last time around, ahead of Marco Sorensen. So doing the right job, and he did, again, that job in the first race. There, the blue TF Sport Aston Martin continues to pull clear. 2.1 seconds clear now, then just Phil Keane just about a second down on Sorensen, and Darren Turner just over a second down in 4th place. So it's fairly even at the front end. The wind, if anything, outside our commentary box appears to have picked up, but right now the cars are behaving well. Maybe slightly cooler track conditions than they were this morning when it was solid wall-to-wall sunshine. And a mistake from Ryan Ratcliffe there, and the Nissan comes through, so Struan Moore, that was a bit of an unusual one from Ryan Ratcliffe.
If you look at the front splitter on the Bentley, it was just scraping on the ground as it went through Rich's, which was turn 1, so maybe we might be able to pick that up a bit later with our cameras, but I could hear it going like sort of scratching along the ground. So different setup with different cars, different drivers. There he is. He's happy now, by the way. He wasn't actually unhappy in the first time.
I looked at him, he was really joking with the people.
I misjudged that, so apologies.
He accepted that there'd been a bit of
a late call.
A late call, but only seconds after the other. It would be madness to have continued behind the safety car. Better to come in under the safety car and make the pit stop if all your rivals are doing it. There's another slow lap behind the safety car. They'd have actually been way worse off than the sort of fumble in the pit lanes. That's behind them now. So here is the GT4 battle. It is still Matt Nicol-Jones from Jack Mitchell. So Aston Martin from BMW, but the second BMW is closing in as well with Ben Green. That's 4th in class, and in between them is the Mercedes of Scott Morvan, but it's certainly hotting up at the front because Matt Nicol-Jones is being pushed and closed in on by Jack Mitchell. Unfortunately, Mitchell and his teammate Alexander Sherpen in the 43 BMW came in very early on for an unplanned pit stop in race 1, and that really junked their chances of points.
But that BMW looks very, very good on the brakes. It really does sort of eat into that tiny bit of a lead that Aston's got. Oh, there we go, the Aston's just squirmed under the brakes there. As we were saying, commentator's curse, usual sort of thing, but that BMW is looking very good on the brakes. So interesting. I think we're going to see a bit of a lunge from that BMW very soon.
Yes, I think it was almost like just sensing the braking point on the BMW. Matt Nicol-Jones almost trying to match it, or maybe just in watching in his mirrors while he's, this is the skill of a great racing driver. They're looking in their mirrors while also trying to nail their braking point to the centimetre, and he just drifted probably about 30 centimetres too far forward. The tail came out, but he managed to get it round Brundle. So job done, but the pressure is on, and that certainly doesn't help. You'd have to say the advantage is with Jack Mitchell in behind.
But the BMW, they said that they've got some good straight line speed, but okay, then cool.
Well, it didn't look too shabby there.
It didn't look too shabby there, I must admit. But he lost a little bit coming out of Russell, the last corner onto the pit straight, but then seemed to gain it back once the engine has properly got into its stride. Let's have a look at some lap times.
Well, in fact, the fastest one of the top 4 was the BMW in 4th place. We've had a change in the GT4 class.
It's been done.
First BMW's gone to the front, but watch the second one. 42 is coming up from 4th to trying to get into 3rd, but that's not the place at Parma. But the speed he had, he was the fastest of all of them. Number 42 car tucked in behind Scott Morvan, who is his exhaust dragging on the Mercedes. Let's have a look if we can at the rear of the Mercedes. There it is, holding down 3rd place. Now we'll get a rear shot as it goes away. Thought I said, well, it's not the exhaust, it's the bodywork.
It's the rear diffuser.
Rear diffuser dropping down, and if anything, and now we're getting Joe Osborne coming back through, so little slip up there from Ben Green, and Joe Osborne said, you demoted me earlier. No one does that to Joe Osborne, he says, and
he's enjoying
has moved through. So the clock is ticking away. 1 hour this race. We had a 1 hour race this morning, and the pit stop window opens just before the halfway stage in the race. Some of the crews will choose, because their pro driver is in, to leave them out as long as they possibly can. Let's have a look at the replay there. 43 taking the lead. Fantastic move there from Jack Mitchell up the inside of Matt Nicol-Jones. We saw Matt last lap getting a little bit twitchy as he tried to resist the BMW, and this time he realised, I'm beaten, there's no point taking both of us out, leave the space. So he tucks into 2nd place behind Scott Morvan Actually, it might have been there that the damage was done, because I almost sense that BMW in 4th place may have just clipped the back of it, but we're not casting blame, but it was certainly close enough as they came out of the Wilson hairpin.
If it wasn't done intentionally.
Oh, no, not at all.
Secondly, it's not going to do any harm to the handling of the car, really, to be honest with you. So.
Now, I would suggest that Phil Keane is going to have the longer stint in this race than John Minshaw. The fact John's sitting in a deck chair in the team garage, not exactly getting his balaclava. Oh, sorry, he's got the call to put his balaclava on.
Oh, there you go. That was you. You did that.
No, he's going off to do what drivers have to do, I would reckon, before they get out of the race car.
Hide from the camera or go for a wee. That Lamborghini does that. It just stand out, doesn't it? With just that, a very well-known Demon Tweaks livery.
I like the fact that a livery can last for year after year after year. And I mean, think back to when Adam Minshaw was driving way back in the 80s. Those cars everywhere. So let's have a look. Nicky Team leading down into Brundle. He was 2.7 seconds clear of Marco Sorensen. May have stretched it. Phil Keane in 3rd place in the Lamborghini. Darren Turner, Jonathan Cocker in the 2nd Lamborghini. Then Callum McLeod, who's driven very well to keep Johnny Adam back. Johnny Adam in the 75 Aston Martin. In behind him is Jelmer Berman in the 116 Mercedes. And tucked behind him is 47. Getting a bit frustrated. Maxime Martin should have been starting right at the sharp end of the grid, but was demoted from 3rd to 11th. And it ain't easy to move past in these cars, and particularly when the pro drivers are out.
Yeah, exactly.
Less likely to make a mistake, to give you that option, that little gap into which you could dive.
Yeah, they know how to put their elbows out.
Ian Lockey looking on.
Callum's teammates with the Bentley that we'll be just looking at, the green flashes on. That's the 2nd driver in that pairing. Looking very pensive. And a spinner 42.
Dear me, this is the one that was chasing. Yeah. Ben Green got up into 4th place in class. Now he's tumbled down. Who's he coming out just behind the best of the Jaguars? So that's down into about 10th position in class. This is the battle. Joe Osborne's just made his way past Scott Morford. Did he jump or was he pushed? But certainly you can see the tyre mark on the side of that BMW, but he's lost half a dozen places and all of his momentum. In fact, he's down behind the 2nd of the Invictus Racing Jaguars. Leading the GT3 class, though, is Jack Mitchell in the 43 BMW. His teammate, Matt Nicol-Jones, 2nd. 54 going very well indeed. That's Jesse Antilla. Finnish racer in one of the Ultratech Nissans, but it does seem the Century Motorsport BMWs are very quick, and one of them is profiting from that. It's 43, the car that had the problem in the first race. Jack Mitchell stretching his advantage over Matt Nicol-Jones. It's just under a second. It's just over a second, gained 0.2 of a second around the course of that lap, but very, very close in behind. It's going to take a while for the 2nd of the BMWs, which is at the top of your screen, to make his way back into the pack.
Not that I like to place blame, but that's going to be a good move. Good little battle going on there. Nissan versus McLaren. Nissan around the outside. Cut back, bit of contact. Go on, push.
That's Jordan Albert and Jesse Antilla getting very, very close. Just how we like it in GT4 racing. They're close in qualifying time. They're close on the track.
That's racing. Rubbish racing. But the incident we just saw a minute ago with the BMW, I would be very surprised that there isn't a bit of an inquiry about that, because it did look fairly blatant.
It certainly did. So
it might be an old story. It might be an old war. Who knows? But it looked fairly blatant.
It could be. I think you're talking about the McLaren that was tucked in behind that maybe gave him a bit of a push.
The blue one,
which is Daniel Mackay.
Yeah, which hit
Porsche
the
racer.
Yeah.
We couldn't see from the shot. I'd like to see it again, to see if he too in turn got pushed as they did the braking into Wilson. But certainly the person who lost out was the 42 BMW in the hands of Ben Green, which is a shame, because he was actually the fastest of the top 4 in GT4, so it was coming his way. Here is the class leader, here is his teammate Jack Mitchell. He's got that comfortable little cushion as Joe Osborne is now starting to get very, very close indeed to Matt Nicol-Jones in the Aston Martin.
There's great little battles going on all the way through the grid. But let's have a look at the gap for the leader. Leader is, it's a good just over 2 seconds in the lead, which is in motorsport quite a lot.
Well, it's particularly good. It's almost worth double that, because of course those behind are scrapping so hard that they will facilitate his escape. Now there's the 42 Ben Green BMW, and dissatisfaction for those around. Alexander Sherpen just starting to put his suit on. Ben Tuck waiting. You were I thought the bonnet was up, just slightly. Just look on the Jaguar ahead of the 42, which by my reckoning is the 22
ever
car.
Slightly, it's had a bit of damage at some point, I would have thought, because it's...
Yeah, there's Jason Wolf's car tucked in behind the Fox Motorsport Mercedes, which at the moment's got Broadhurst at the wheel, Michael Broadhurst.
He did like clipping that inside, bit of dust, don't they, on the inside of Richards?
I believe it's obligatory. I think they must have been told to do it in the driver's briefing.
Have to.
Oh no, hold on, they're all behaving along that line, so maybe not. So let's just reiterate, looking at the front, that's 4th position in the background. We saw just going through Murray's. Here's the race leader, Nicky Team, comfortably in front of Marco Sorensen, 2.7 seconds last time around, 2.7 seconds this time around. Then Phil Keane, then Darren Turner, there's Johnny Cocker just going out the bottom of the screen, then the first of the Bentleys, second of the Bentleys just at the back of that pack. First of the Bentleys is Callum McLeod, Johnny Adam, Yelmer Bourbon, Maxime Martin, and then Struan Moore. And Ryan Ratcliffe actually bringing up the rear, and 5 seconds off the back of Struan Moore, so not all going the way again of that number 1 Aston Martin. But the 47 car, frustrated is the driver of that car, because it's Maxime Martin. We know in terms of pace he was the fastest driver in the first race this morning, but he's at the back of the pack. He's trying to find a gap. He's going to have to stay out as long as he possibly can, because if he gets even 1 lap without the cars in front of him, because they've come in, that gives him a chance to maybe gain half a second, maybe even a second, because we've seen in terms of pace he can do it. But right now he's getting very, very tired at the back of the Yelmer Bourbon's Mercedes.
Callum has definitely broken a little bit of a gap there from in the green and white Bentley that's ahead of this sort of fighting pack, as it were. So he's got a bit of breathing space. And when I interviewed him on the grid, generally most of the drivers were already starting to sweat because it's so hot with all your 3-piece race suits, helmet, balaclava, all that sort of stuff. It does get very hot in there. There's Lee Mole, I think it was.
Yeah, Lee Mole looking on to see how his car's going. Don't forget, he's still the championship leader, but after not getting a great result in race 1, they came home in 7th place, didn't gain as many points as they wanted. Their lead, which was sizable coming here to Snetterton, came down to not so many points, and now
the lead Aston went very, very wide there at Rich's, kicked up a load of dust on the exit there, and that's why, is it Osborne who's in the 5 McLaren? 5 and 5.
Who's in 5 at the moment? That's Jordan Albert.
Jordan Albert that's where the gap has just decreased, because the Aston went a little bit wide on the exit of turn 1.
Well, it's Jack Mitchell,
so
Matt Nicol-Jones in the black, white and yellow Aston Martin, 2nd place. And there is number 10, who's right in the pack as well. That's Daniel Mackay. I think he might be coming to this shot in the blue and white McLaren. Look at the BMW on the outside of the shot, round Scott Malvern.
No, he just goes straight in.
And do you reckon he just went?
Yeah.
Okay, just went. So
he went in too
Daniel
fast.
Mackay.
He clipped the curb, outbraked himself, and went straight into the
Again, you have to catch the absolute start of the shot. We gained a little more lead time, and there is Dan Mackay now. He's tucked in behind Joe Osborne. Good drive from Mackay. Matt Nicol-Jones doing a fantastic job for Jack Mitchell, because Jack Mitchell's in front of him in the BMW.
Yes.
There he is, and look, that has become quite a comfortable advantage on the start-finish line. Last time around it was 2.5 seconds. Looks like it might have gone out a bit more. Joe Osborne fancies flashing around the outside into Brundle.
That's
good
a
move
good
if you can
move.
put it off and get your braking done, and he just managed to do the latter.
That was impressive. Very, very impressive. Well done, Joe.
As
I'll
a
give you that
driver
one.
who's comfortable with the car.
To go around the outside there, the Aston must have braked much earlier for Joe to have been able to go around the outside and get it stopped for that nasty right-hander before the famous bum hole. Pits crew are waiting. We are nearly at half distance already.
Yeah, just a little note at the bottom of the screen. Contact between 42 and 56 under investigation. There is 56 in the background of the shot there. That's Joe Osborne, and 42 was, of course, Ben Green, the BMW. So I'm not sure if that was an earlier incident. But there is the number 4 McLaren at a standstill. That went very well in race 1. 2nd overall in the hands of Charlie Fagg and Michael O'Brien. Sorry, it wasn't Joe Osborne. It was the 3rd of the Tolman McLarens that we saw coming into the pit lane. There is Joe Osborne now in front of that great move into Brundle around the outside of Matt Nicol-Jones.
Right,
now let's have a look at the replay up the start-finish track into the pit lane. I'm not sure that's entirely in the textbook, but that was a move where there was a compromise required from the driver of 54, Jesse Antilla.
And then has put the Mercedes off, and then Mercedes then goes wide. So that's
Mercedes lost out in that little.
That's a fine thing to do, because the move wasn't done in the pit lane, but at the same time it did scare the Mercedes driver just to go a little bit wide on that particular bit of, I think, Richards, first corner.
So the first pit corners, it always looks excruciatingly slow, but there's a minimum pit stop time. And don't forget, the first 3 finishes in each the GT3 and GT4 classes, they get time penalties. They got to stop for even longer. Race wins worth 10 seconds added to your pit time. So that must be absolutely gruesome. So sometimes maybe it's better to finish fourth than fourth twice than third and then seventh. Certainly when you put up the points. Now, look, the GT3 runners, just before their pit stops, what they don't want is to come upon a gaggle of cars. What's happened? They've come across a gaggle of cars
already. And
Aaron Turner, you can see in the beach Dean Aston Martin trying to pick his way through. It goes past one of the two Invictus Racing Jaguars, and this is where you might have been cross with yourself earlier in the race if you lost a tenth of a second. Here you can guess wrong, just be blocked and lose half a second, just like that. So Nicky team leading the train around from Marco Sorensen, but the last lap was much better for Sorensen. He managed to gain about a second, so he's a second and a half down, and there's only one Jaguar between him and the race leader. There is Nicky team about to start his 15th lap, and in fact he might have taken it back to 2.5 seconds. Let's see, as early as 1.465 seconds, so my eyes deceive me, and the move round the Jaguar, the lapping of the Jaguar, has allowed Marco Sorensen to continue on his way. In fact, he gained a few hundredths on that lap, and that is how competitive it is. Now we've got the cars, the GT3 runners are coming in, not the very, very front end ones, but don't forget in race one they all came in when the safety car was out, and so it was a very, very busy pit lane, and we're fairly confident this car gained a little bit of damage when coming out from its pit stop, so it can be overly busy in the pit lane. Advantage for the Invictus Racing crew, they're very near pit exit, which makes for a cleaner exit if all goes well.
If all goes well, yes, unless they don't trip over a Lamborghini or whatever it may be. Just talking of which, actually, Tahan, is it Lamborghini? Really quite new to racing, and Mark Lemmer pretty much bigs him up quite a lot. He's quite proud of how well he's done in his career so far. They fast-tracked him to get his race licence in some clubby races over the winter, and yeah, pretty impressive start to his career. So there you go, in that Lamborghini there.
Yeah, so there goes Johnny Cocker is finished. Sam DeHaan back into the race, this time with the car looking as it should do. So still the pit stops go on for the Invictus Games Jaguar team. Such an amazing story for these ex-servicemen who are out there, many of them working on the crew as well. It's not just the drivers coming in to gain a new meaning to help them in their recovery, on their road to recovery, but great to have them here. A hugely popular team up and down the paddock, and certainly the fans flocking to see them. And now we have, what's the gap between first and second? There is a second place, number 17 Aston Martin, 1.465 seconds down on Nicky team. Coming towards the end of their stint, is any of this group of cars going in? Certainly the Aston Beach and Aston Martin isn't, because it's on the outside of two cars that would have stopped it trying to go in the pit lane. Rather like Frank Beeler at Le Mans about 15 years ago when he was meant to come in. He decided to overtake one more car and then couldn't pull over and then had to run out of fuel because he missed the pit entry.
I remember that. It's quite a famous blunder, wasn't it? A famous blunder. Good battle here between the Bentley and the Aston. You can see the difference in size of the vehicles, how much lower the Aston looks. You'd think it would handle better, but that Bentley seems to be holding it up at its bay.
Well, here is a Bentley, it's the number one Bentley, but that has made a pit stop. That's Rick Parfitt Jr. on his outlap, and he's separating the race-leading Nicky team from the fellow Dane, former member of the Dane train with Nicky. Marco Sorensen giving chase. It's 1.5 seconds again, so it's a tenth of a second here or there. But I would reckon, I don't know how many more laps we're going to get from these two Works Aston Martin races before they come in. They'll try and enter the pits as late as they possibly can to maximise their time and to an extent minimise the time of their teammates who get faster and faster. But these are the hired hands, the guns, the quickest drivers. If you want to win races, you want them out as long as they possibly can be. So Nicky team coming down the Bentley straight one more time. He's done 15 laps. Will he come in at the end of this one, 16? Will he squeak round one more to come in at the end of 17? But with the car in between them, I would think that Marco Sorensen will go, you know what, I may just come in unless Rick Parfitt Jr. gets out of my way. I don't want to lose more time on the next lap.
No, exactly that, because they are going to come across many more GT4s in the next remaining 28 minutes of this hour second race here at Snetterton.
Also, another thing, Charlie, is when you get a driver coming out in a GT4 car, which isn't as quick as your GT3 car, they'll be as fired up as they can be, but they may not be fully on it for the first half a lap, and that could be where you catch them and you really lose out. Yeah,
that's where the Formula One stars like Vettel and Hamilton can really earn the big bucks, because they can deliver that one lap that you need to deliver.
Poor lap there for Marco Sorensen. We can see why, because he's gone from 1.5 seconds to 2.5 seconds down. Callum McLeod nearly locked up coming into the pit lane. That was a massive save. He's coming in line astern, and his rivals just up in front. But he had a good stint there, Callum McLeod.
Yeah, I think he enjoyed himself. How can you not enjoy yourself when you sat in that, all of that money's worth of car? And it's such a beautiful bit of kit. There's hardly anything in the car, it's just all electronics and a roll cage. But to you and I, it still looks like your Bentley that you can go and buy from...
Wherever you buy Bentleys.
Yeah.
TF Sport.
Loads of them up in Cheshire, don't you?
Yeah, TF Sport can laugh because their cars are first and second, but the gap between the first place car, number 11, with Nicky Thiem and Marco Sorensen. Marco, even around the first half of this lap, has lost about another half a second. So he's stuck behind Rick Parfitt Jr.'s T Parker Racing Bentley. Rick will continue to the end of the race, but Marco will, I'm sure, come in this time around. But his disadvantage was 1.5 seconds. It will be 3.5 by the time he comes in for their respective teammates. That's great news for Mark Farmer, who'll take over the number 11 car. Yep. Not such good news, unfortunately, for Derek Johnston. So
Lamborghini's definitely coming in this lap, so we know that for sure, because the crew were all getting ready. So we'll see the Lamborghini in, I'm sure, at this lap. Oh, they're getting close, don't they? They get very close. Good move,
though. The 55 Ginetta was coming through, come what may. And that's Callum Poynton.
He had to block there though, because the Aston still had the advantage.
And the long shot down the pit lane, of course it foreshortens everything. It's a long pit lane, but it just looks so super crowded. Translate that for race one as our first, second and third come in, and we had literally all the cars by about 4. It was chocker down in the pit lane. So will Barwell Motorsport make a super sleek stock? These days run, you were saying, by Robin Liddell now, looking after the logistics in the pit lane.
Robin Liddell, so known him for many, many years. Good strong Scottish character, and he is now he's taken over the running of the helm of Barwell Motorsport to leave Mark Lemmer just a chance just to look after the customers, the drivers, sponsors, clients, etc., and just sort of oversee it a bit more, really. So good teamwork from those two. They both respect each other very much.
Now, the order could change somewhat because the Barwell car changing from Phil Keane to John Minshaw, but has to stay stationary for 5 extra seconds. Race leader, number 11, that's 10 extra seconds, so they're definitely going to pull out ahead of Mark Farmer after Nicky Thiem came in from the lead, because that's an awfully long time. And the third car is the Maxime Martin Graham Davidson Jetstream Aston Martin, which gains 7 seconds extra at the pit stop, which isn't something you want to gain. As you can see, the mechanics saying, stay, wait. The 17 car will go out ahead of it, most certainly. Now we've got a very slow Bentley. Callum McLeod we saw coming into the pits, so really, really unfortunate. Back onto the circuit after its pit stop. And for poor Ian Loggy, we saw him waiting for his stint. Hasn't been a dream start to that stint. So number 11 Aston Martin just by the smallest of a scintilla of a millimetre pulls out ahead of the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. I thought the Barwell car, because that had a 5-second extra pit stop time, would come out ahead, but it's come out behind. So that was super close, and that would be really, really disappointing for Phil Keane. He must have thought, if I stay close enough, at least we'll jump that number 11 car in the pits. Mark Lemmer talking to
Robin Liddell as well.
The team Robin Liddell. So quite a brains trust down there.
Yes, yeah. Just a bit.
And
that's the Bentley at Parfitt, isn't it?
Well, there is how close the TF Sport Aston Martin number 11 is ahead of John Minshaw. So it's Mark Farmer ahead of John Minshaw. And don't forget, Mark Farmer had that longest pit stop because they had 10 seconds extra at a standstill. So for Phil Keane and Nicky Thiem, they can put a cooling cloth on their forehead, but for their teammates, they've got into that already hot environment, not the nicest environment when it's someone else has warmed it up for you.
Yes.
And you have to immediately get in and focus. At least for those that start the race, it's under relatively cool, controlled situation, and you don't notice the heat until you really think about it, how it's continued to build up. For these drivers, anyhow, they get on with it. It's a 1 hour race, 2 drivers, and right now the 33 car's got John Minshaw on board. But the 17 car shall be leading the race, and that's Derek Johnston, TF Sport. Then Andrew Howard, we had a chat with him on the grid, or you had a chat, and there is that very slowly moving Team Parker Racing car. Poor Ian Loggy. You don't know what the problem is, tumbling down the order. They were one of the first GT3 runners to make a pit stop.
Yes.
And whether that worked or not, but what happened when he came out of the pit stop, something has gone seriously wrong. So Andrew Howard in second place, third place Mark Farmer in the blue Aston Martin, fourth place John Minshaw. Derek Johnston, though, leading by 3 seconds. And we've heard that even though it's a bit brighter to one side of the commentary box, there are spits of rain at the other end of the circuit. You'd think in the first place they might find it, no, we're serious, just the bomb hole or quorum, no need for grip.
2 of the most challenging corners in British motorsport.
Yeah, the wind, you can see the flags up and down the pit lane, the Blancpain flags really blowing.
Yeah.
Up into what appears to be 5th place is Lee Mole, so he benefited from not having any time penalties at his pit stop, is moving up the order. Don't forget, leading the championship coming into this meeting, still leading at the start of this race, but the gap has come down. Now let's have a look at the cars. And oh dear, Rick Parfitt Jr. has gone for a spin.
So that's both Bentleys.
Both Bentleys had a spin.
On the same lap that they've had issues.
So, oh, it's at Murray's, the final corner of the lap. Couldn't quite work it out all on his own, perhaps. So there's the Jetstream Aston Martin. And top of shot is a Ginetta. And wait, top of shot.
Way too fast. Rick, come on, slow down. Slow in, fast out.
Well, it could well be. We talked about the spits of rain, just the smallest difference of grip. And unfortunately, that was the sister car comes into the pit. So that very same stretch of track in the space of no time at all has not provided the images that Team Parker Racing, such a strong team, would have wanted here at Snetterton. And up at Rich's, it's getting brighter. Look across through the tinted windows towards the bomb hole and Coram, where we heard talk of rain. Can't see it, but maybe the driver's just starting to sense it. Certainly for Rick Parfitt Jr., you'd think that would explain why he went around. Still no reason as to why the 7 Bentley is in the pit lane, but a problem early in the lap and a slow limp home for Ian Loggy.
Yeah, it's a real shame that, especially, you know, when he's the theory of the gentleman driver in the pairing, and Callum's had his fun. Not that it's about, you know, I've had my fun, so I'm going to break the car. It's not that at all. You want to get to the end. It's a real team effort, GT driving, but it's a real shame for Loggy because Callum wouldn't have done anything to the car. It's just obviously just an electrical gremlin or something, but we will try and find out as we go.
Well, it's getting very, very tight in this battle at the moment for 3rd place. Mark Farmer just ahead of John Minshaw. How many battles have they had in the past 2 or 3 seasons?
Quite a few. Quite a few.
And the only big change really in that is that TF Sport has sort of largely changed its livery. I think it's fantastic. I really love that sort of deep metallic blue.
Yep.
Slightly matte effect, and then the little yellow markings on it. But right
similar,
here, we're actually
similar
seeing
blue to your TVR or not?
No, mine's a bit darker than that.
A bit darker.
But that one's going, mine isn't. So this is the battle for 3rd place. Mark Farmer, I would suggest, just starting to eke out the advantage. There is Ian Loggy.
Let's have a look.
Still with his helmet on. Well, I don't think we're going to gain that much from.
Gutted. Let's have a listen.
Couldn't. Well, we can't quite tell what they're saying, but it's the big explanation as to the same as last time, did he say? How frustrating.
Yeah.
Now, having had that little possible flurry of rain, seems to be brightening up a little bit. Windscreen wiper sitting in the middle of the screen. You can see someone's signature skid marks on the circuit.
Leaving their mark on Snetterton this weekend.
Yeah. Well, leading the way in the GT4 class is 56 McLaren that won the class in the opening race. And it's David Patterson at the wheel, a driver who absolutely loves his racing. The 55 Ginetta there at the moment, Callum Poynton picking his way back up the order. There is David Patterson, 11th overall. And in fact, the next car he needs to try and catch up with is in GT3. It's Rick Parfitt Jr., and that's not really his target at all. His target is to remain at the front of that class. You come here to get the 25 points for victory in class. Number 5, similar car, same team, Tolman Motorsport, and it's Proctor at the wheel at the moment. He's taken that over. That's Lewis Proctor. Jordan Albert started that. McLaren's going very well indeed. The number 10 car, Finley Hutchinson, he's a lap down. Sorry, I jumped too fast there.
The drivers have got to watch out for not using too much road on the exit of the corners. Like here, for example, there's a camera on the exit of the corner. There's a camera on the next corner as well. So if they go too wide, it sets off an instant photograph that gets sent to the clerk of the course. And if they do it more than 2 or 3 times, they get the naughty boy drive through the pits penalty. So they need to be careful of that. Jonathan Palmer's very, very hot on these cameras at all the corners that you could gain an advantage because he's an ex-racer, so he knows that.
Yeah, and it's very much his thing about track limits. I agree with him on it.
He likes his grass. He likes it to be nice and tidy. Yep. That's my lawn. You have the black stuff. Great battle for the lead, though. Yes. It's getting very close. Move. Half a second gained by Andrew Howard last time around on Derek Johnson. Derek still in the lead of the race. The 17 Aston Martin. There's Darren Turner. He's watching with massive interest because that's his car in second place, and thumbs up. So 18 minutes remaining on the clock, and Andrew seems to have the form at the moment
to hunt down Derek Johnson. Derek didn't have the best of race. He got a bit busy in the opening part of race 1. That'd be on his mind, but he's settled down. He's got a couple of GT4 cars ahead of him, but it's Aston Martin 17 ahead of 99. There's the Beach D car, 99. And going very well through the bomb hole there. Corner where you go into a bit of a compression. You can just see them bottoming there. And then into Coram, a corner that just seems to go on and on and on. And if you had a little smattering of rain, that'd be the place where you just start to think, I didn't have much grip in the best of times when it was dry, and I can't feel it now.
You'd end up in Norwich.
But race leader got blocked by the GT4 cars, had to go somewhere. The number 4 McLaren in his way, and the gap was, well, 0.53 of a second. Looks like it's going to be marginally closer. 0.3 of a second perhaps this time. 0.282 of a second. It's come down to next to nothing. It's Derek Johnson leading way, but only just from Andrew Howard.
Great
for Andrew,
these two doing battle.
better to be the hunter than the hunted.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's about to go straight ahead up into Wilson. Decides, no, maybe not. Let's just wait, because that Ginetta is going to be in the way of our race leader, Derek Johnson. Perhaps at Agostini, and maybe there I can profit, but Johnson will have to go. I'm not waiting to Agostini. I'm going past at Farmers. Palmer didn't make it work. And now the momentum's with the 99 car as they sweep up towards Agostini, who's going to be the lead coming out. There's a Ginetta in their path. That is negotiated by the race leader, and the Invictus Racing Jaguar chops the momentum at Agostini of the race leader. This is super close. Darren Turner's quite enjoying that, I think, from his vantage point. Nothing he can do about it.
Go on to his teammate, yes. And as a teammate, when you're sat in the pits, it is so nerve-wracking. You can't just chill out and relax, because you've just given the responsibility of someone else to be in your car.
Yeah, so Marco Sorensen, eyebrows up and down. His car still in front, but only just. That's a great little battle, 44 and 55. They're not fighting for honours at the moment. They're down in about 8th position in class, but for McCulley and Poynton, that's why they're out there. They're out there to race, and that's what they're doing, and doing it very well indeed.
Bit of blocking there from the Mercedes in charge of the BMW there, so a little tiny weave. You can only move once or twice across the track to block. And look, we've got the GT3s coming past. The BMW's just chopped Andrew Howard's nose off there a little bit just as they entered the bomb hole.
Yeah, well, that was
he had no choice really.
Yeah,
that was just a racing incident.
in GT4 suddenly having the race-leading duo all upon them, and again a better corner exit from Andrew Howard, all but pushing around behind Murphy's Mercedes, and again I think he's got slightly better exit from Murray's. They both go past Murphy's Mercedes, and now right in the slipstream, past our commentary position and up to Rich's, but I think just enough of an advantage, 0.234 of a second, that's what it is. They go to Rich's. Fantastic battle for first place.
Andrew looks slightly better on the brakes. So the blue Aston Martin there we can see in that battle just looks a little bit better on the brakes than the black and white one of Johnston ahead.
They're sitting on quite a
evenly matched though.
Yeah, but they're sitting on quite a tidy advantage. It's 5.6 seconds back to Mark Farmer in the number 11 Aston Martin in third. They don't have to worry about him for now, but we know the traffic can catch them out, but they can afford a few incidents, and can't even see the blue Aston Martin just coming into shot in the background. They should be safe from him towards the end of the race.
If they keep battling, they will trip over themselves, and that car will catch them. Oh, bit of contact there, just pushing the GT4 car out the way.
Well, they did it very well. That was Will Moore. He's running third in GT4, so got plenty to do. Nicky Team has done all he has to do, chatting with Marco Sorensen, 2 of 3 members of the famous Dane train in the World Endurance Championship for Aston Martin, but this battle for the lead is all Aston Martin, but at the moment it's Derek Johnson hanging on in the number 17 Aston Martin, and in behind, just looking for the moment, waiting for the moment, Andrew Howard. But debris on the circuit at the end of the Bentley Straight. They're going to have to go around the side of it, not close enough surely for Andrew Howard to make a move.
It looks like clumps of rubber.
It looks like rubber.
It doesn't look like chunks of rubber where the tyre has just got rid of the excess bits of rubber that was needed at that high speed on heavy braking on the way into Brundle.
Want to look, can't look, don't look,
and now on TV.
Yeah, so Derek Johnson continues to lead the race there.
This is great. Look at this round the outside of the McLaren as they come round Coram, having to stop the car onto a sixpence in second or third. Andrew Howard definitely got the bit between his teeth when I interviewed him on the grid. I said to him cheer up, but he was actually happy. I was just winding him up. But at the same time, he's definitely got the aggression, and he's been champion, as we know, with Johnny Adam a few years ago. So he just wants that win back again.
Just as they went through, just had a change of position. Second place in GT4 is now Will Moore in the 62 Aston Martin. He just moved past David Patterson. I think David slightly lost momentum. as the two race leading cars came through. It's still the 17 ahead of the 99, but for how much longer? Andrew Howard is looking this way, looking that way, and Derek Johnson is having to work very hard. Someone's just gone for a big spin near one of our cameras. You can hear big rotation. We'll work out who that is later on, but here is our lead battle, pulling ever further clear. They're now 9 seconds clear of Mark Farmer, so it's going to be a battle all the way to the finish, only between these two. Or will they stay on the track? They're certainly getting very, very close, but it's been tidy, Charlie, so far.
Yes, well, it has to be, really, from the interview that Andrew gave us on the grid earlier. You know, he can't tap anyone because he was complaining that other people have been doing the same. So he's a clean, sensible driver, but they are getting very, very close. And these GT4 cars, the number 5 car again.
I think that's the class leader. I think that's Lewis Proctor.
Yeah, who's got a nice healthy
number
lead.
5. There it is. Yes. Yep. So he's minding his own business as best he can.
Andrew Howard's looking like he's on a mission to pounce very, very soon. Is he going to be better on the brakes? He's going to do the lunge.
It's got to come sometime, but Derek Johnson, I think, is driving a fantastic race. He's just doing enough to stick in front. Andrew Howard appears to have a little bit more pace, which makes it worrying. Good to see the way the GT4 car sticks with him for a few corners to see what he needs to do when hopefully he moves up a career step to GT3. So for all these drivers who are used to having their fate in their own hands in so many championships, are now just having to have the other side of being a GT and sports car racer. Of course, for Darren Turner, he's been doing it for decades now, so he's fully used to it.
Oh, he's an old hand.
On and off.
He's a veteran.
He's not. He's older than that. Just joking, Darren.
Could be watching this back going, God, cheeky buggers.
Yeah, what a horrible man. I never liked him.
Okay,
but
gap's increased
It has increased, and it wasn't particularly traffic-induced. I would say that maybe there's a slight slip-up from Andrew Howard there. I can't see any particular reason.
It was seen that way.
Third of a second. Farmer in third place in 11 Aston Martin. John Minshaw, and just see him going out of shot, the 33 Lamborghini. And then Flick Haig coming up behind in the Aston Martin, starting to close in the 75 car. Yeah, last lap gained a second and a half, so going well. But again, as we know, with the GT4 cars around the track, numerically 2-1 on the circuit, the predominant force, and that means that it's very easy for these GT3 runners to just have to bite their lip, if you will, and stay in behind for one more corner, and that costs them time.
So Johnson definitely looks like he's got the bit between his teeth now, and Andrew Howard seems to have dropped off a tiny bit. What are we picking up here? So this is GT3 again with the BMW.
And the
Mark
GT Farmer,
and
he's just got past one of the GT4 BMWs. Better place of those is Ben Tuck, who is in second place in class. He's been the driver who's come on through. Had changed. Patterson was overtaken by Moore. Tuck has overtaken both of them. So he was a star in the first race in the 42 BMW and is doing it all over again. In fact, leading the way is Lewis Proctor. There, the McLaren is the class leader in GT4. Sorry, that's 43. I got caught out by the combos there. That's Sherpen behind Murphy. He's just got ahead of Murphy, I think.
It's a good battle, though.
Good battle.
Oh, well, he got Minshaw
and being pushed very hard by Haig. This is
Haig,
fourth in the GT3 class. And then Davidson is in behind the Jetstream Motorsport car that was started by Marco Sorensen. So here they come. 33 in fourth place, 75 in fifth place, and pushing on very hard indeed. And then the Davidson car tucked in behind, that started last in the class. So Minshaw fourth, fifth, sixth, and then tucked in behind the GT4 BMW, the GT4 class, still for now in the hands of Lewis Proctor and his McLaren. Ben Tuck in his BMW up to second in class. That's Tuck in the BMW in the background. They will come up on Lewis Proctor any moment now, who's leading the class by 5 seconds. So by the time they get to Wilson, surely it's going to be a move coming up from Davidson. That car's got form. Yeah, that definitely car's got form, and if Minshaw keeps making mistakes, especially by going a little bit wider there at the exit of the first corner, he gave that white and orange Aston time to get back onto the boot lid of that, well, pretty much one of my favourite cars, the Lamborghini. So there is the GT4 class leader being overtaken by the driver who just moved up into fourth place. Flick Haig has moved ahead of John Minshaw. Now Minshaw has got Graham Davidson for company, the orange and white Aston Martin tucked in behind. So one place lost there by the Demon Tweaks. And a sprinkling of GT4s. And a sprinkling of GT4s in the middle as well, just to hot it up. But that is pretty much on the rear diffuser or rear splitter or exhaust, whatever you want to call it, right on that Aston Martin front. He gets his nose that's unfortunate. Lewis Proctor had to go somewhere. He couldn't get out of the way, and that's chopped back.
That's definitely helped.
Graham Davidson's charge has been blunted. He was half a second down at the start of the lap, and it's gone a lot further back. And this gap remains at about a third of a second between Johnston and Howard at the lead of the race. Third place is Mark Farmer, then Flick Haig. Just seen her coming to the bottom of the shot. See her coming out of the bomb hole now. The 75 Aston Martin moved up into fourth. There is the GT4 class leader. Jordan Albert started it, and Lewis Proctor is bringing it home. He's sitting on an advantage in the GT4 class of 5 seconds over Ben Tuck, but I think there's Ben Tuck in the background, and no traffic between them for now, so this is a chance for the BMW racer to see if he can close in.
That was a great shot there as well, to see the heat haze coming as they're coming into Coram. It's either just a very slight lift or a tiny bit dab of the brakes, but just seeing the sort of the heat haze coming from each of those wheels, because those brakes, you know, when they change them at Le Mans and they change them in 5 or 6 minutes, they're like asbestos hands. I don't know how.
Just extraordinary.
It's unbelievable, the team and the effort that goes in behind just watching this beautiful car going around with a few stickers on it.
And frankly, any time you come racing at Snetterton in March or October, the thought of seeing Snetterton with a heat haze on it is very welcome indeed. So we will take that.
With both hands.
Ultratech Nissan seems to be not quite at its full pace in Kelvin Fletcher's hands. Can't see if there's a problem, but he's just lost a couple of positions. Certainly Invictus Racing Jaguar with Steve McCulley has just gone through. Now 75 Aston Martin not so long ago moved ahead of John Minshaw, now chasing off after Mark Farmer. Will there be a podium for the 75 Aston Martin? It's almost definitely it's going to be a podium, or 2 podium visits by these 2 crews at the front of the field. Derek Johnson leading Andrew Howard. I think he's weathered the storm, but it's only 0.4 of a second. So little between them. But Andrew Howard must be starting to run out of ideas, or maybe he's absolutely sure where he's going to pass. He's just waiting until the very end of the race to do so. Too much of a risky tactic to do that, however, so he's tucked in behind, and I think it could well be traffic induced when the move comes. It could be a GT4 car trying its best to keep out of the way, running its own race, and it could just interrupt the progress, and it could have almost happened there, but it hasn't. So the first 2 dive by into Murray's, and again it's going to be under a half a second on the start finish line. Through the little right hand kink past the pit entry. Ginetta already becoming small in their rear view mirrors. And that corner is also vitally important, because any corner, or pretty much most corners, always lead onto a straight. If you're slow out of that corner, you're slow all the way down the straight. So that and Williams, so Russell and Williams are the 2 probably most important corners here at Snetterton. You can see the tyre wear really starting to affect our race leader, Derek Johnson, and certainly a little more tyre life in the hands of Andrew Howard, but he's got to find a way past, and Howard is pushing really hard, but Derek Johnson appears to have all the answers at the moment, but they're going to be a long 5 and a bit minutes remaining for the race leader. I can't believe the lights are flashing. He wants those in front of him out of the way. No mistaking, I am leading the race. I need you to pull out of the way, because I've got company, serious company. Great battle, love it. It's good, isn't it? It's super tactical now. After an hour. And I'm just keeping an eye on the GT4 battle. It's down to 2 seconds. Not so long ago, Ben Tuck in the 42 BMW was way further now. He was 5 seconds down. In 1 lap, he's gained 3 seconds. Might have been 2 laps. It's going so quickly. 33, John Minshaw, still in 5th place. He's got company, though. There's Graham Davidson, who lost out in traffic, is now trying his utmost to get back in, to make a move, to see if he can do what Flick Haig did not so long ago. So Minshaw, always in the championship battle here in British GT, is determined to take as many points home as he possibly can. So he's got to try and hang on in there. Oh, now second, third and fourth getting closer. Mark Farmer in 3rd place, the number 11 Aston Martin closing fast. Flick Haig in behind. She took half a second out of him last time. Oh, I thought we'd have a change for 5th place, but John Minshaw, he saw that coming. He just chopped the nose off that Aston Martin, and he did that. I think it was either last year or the year before, when the championship was all up for grabs at the old hairpin at Donington, and it was such a shame. But he was kicking himself. It wasn't best to be interviewed after that weekend, that's for sure. Oh, how close can our lead battle get? It was 0.3 of a second. Oh, in fact, it's gone out to 0.779 of a second. Oh, and then we've got the number 10 in Keith Shaw. McLaren off at the side of the circuit. That should be Finlay Hutchison at the wheel, started by Daniel Mackay. Don't bring another safety car out. That car. Do not bring out the safety car. Absolutely fine. Mind John Minshaw might be saying, do bring out the safety car, because I've pushed very, very hard by Graham Davidson. I need the points. It's 10 points for 5th place, and he wants to make sure he gets those, not the points, the 8 points. Oh, well, that was coming from a long way back, and John Minshaw, instead of thinking about the 10 points, might be thinking about none. He's got to get that car back going again. Luckily, it didn't stall, but that was a thump up the back from Graham Davidson there.
That'll be a clerk of the course.
It may well be, Charlie. It may well be. But I don't think he's lost the 1 position, but not anymore. So let's have a look.
Here we go.
Clear air between them. On the outside of the circuit as the drivers approach, Wilson is the Lamborghini, but he had a suitable lead, and now he comes to turn in, and there's no way that Aston Martin was getting the braking done in time. You can see the speed increment between them was sizable enough to realise that the laws of physics would apply, and they duly did just that.
It'll polish out. It'll polish out, but at the same time, that was a good battle, and it's a shame that it's ended that way.
It certainly is. Now we've got just had a little flash of another good battle. 7th place, Lee Mole just holding off Jordan Witt. There it is, beautiful timing. And Jordan just joined the team this weekend to be racing in the Blancpain Endurance Series in the team RJN Nissan. These cars really are absolutely mighty as they whistle and roar. But Jordan Witt, I think Lee Mole's possibly got enough about him to keep Witt back, but Witt has been closing in and took a 2.5 seconds out of him last time around.
What would you drive, Bruce, if you had a choice of any of those cars there? Which one would you go for?
Oh, crikey, I can't with 2 minutes remaining say I have to have an Aston Martin just because I love Aston Martin.
Right, okay.
No, but you know,
I just
the
thought I'd
car
throw
that
it in
would
there.
intrigue me the most would be to drive the Nissan.
Okay.
Just simply because of the way it delivers its performance, but I think I'd be more likely to complete a lap if I drove something like the Mercedes.
Right, okay.
I think I might just
after you a little bit more,
yeah. I mean, that was the thing when they launched, moved from the Gullwing Mercedes, the SLS, to the AMG. Well, this is the battle for the lead, and that's caught. Well, how's that? If you're going to take the lead, why not do it in the final 2 minutes of the race? Ben Tuck, so quick in the first part of race 1, and had a 5-second advantage taken away by the safety car. Ben Green, great start, his teammate in this race, worked his way towards the front, but Ben Tuck, I think, if I had to name a star for this meeting, he would be that very person. And then we've had a place change there. Sorry, Lee, I said you could hold on to the end of the race, but Lee Mole clearly couldn't. So there we are, 2 place changes in important positions in GT3 and GT4.
1 minute and 10 seconds left. How crazy is that?
That is, yeah, well, there we go. Just shows how competitive it is in British GT Championship. And also, if you keep some life in your tyres towards the end of the race, if you haven't gone too hard too soon, and traffic doesn't get in your way, you can and you will be able to make overtakes.
You can really sort of get that lunge done and get that overtake done.
The 501 McLaren that's pushing super hard on David Patterson's tail. 56 McLaren with David Patterson won the GT4 class in race 1 this morning. And the 501 car was the one that brought out the safety car sitting at the side of the circuit. So for Graham Johnson and his teammate Mike Robinson, so much success over the years.
Caught him back up again.
They are right at the sharp end now in GT4, but right at the sharp end of everyone, of everything here with half a minute remaining in this race. It's Derek Johnson leading from Andrew Howard. It's been a fantastic scrap, but it does appear that Derek has had all the answers, but I think this doesn't look like the final lap. I think we have time just to squeak onto one more. Down to Murray.
It's going to be very tight.
But with an advantage, it was 0.6 of a second at the start of the lap. Looks like it's come down very, very slightly. A much faster run into Murray's, but it's the speed out of Murray's that really counts. So with, well, let's see, 3 seconds on the clock, they just squeaked onto one more lap, which is not what Derek Johnston wanted. It is what Andrew Howard wanted. And there is a GT4 runner up ahead. It's one of the Academy Aston Martins saying, I'm keeping out of the way, but I'll kick up the dust in your face while I'm doing it. Now, not so long ago, we had an out-braking manoeuvre that didn't work with an Aston Martin. That was Graham Davidson up to the Wilson hairpin, but that's one opportunity lost for Andrew Howard.
Howard's going to try again. He likes this corner. He always pounces and just has a little jink from one side to the other at this corner. So you can see the time that he's taken out of Johnston there. Is he going to do it?
Well, it's a little kink as you come up to Agostini past the Keith Vachon McLaren, which is luckily out of the way, but another corner covered by race leader Derek Johnson. He's halfway around this 2.99 mile lap, and he's got, what, 3-4 car lengths clear as they come up to a really tricky corner, which is Hamilton. Little flick, but we've seen many cars in the support races overcooking it there, biting at the nails in the TS Sport pit, but it looks as though, I could be wrong, what is on the track up ahead of them, but accelerating onto the Bentley straight.
Yeah, he's...
well, just about to start accelerating through Williams, and it's important, but there are about 2-3 car lengths between them as they go onto the straight. It looks as though, kicking up the dust, he went right to the edge of the circuit. It looks as though Derek Johnson is pushing as hard as he can. Andrew Howard most certainly is behind. How close, this is the closest they've been for several laps.
This is great.
Down the straight, but the important thing is cover off the line into Brundle, out of Brundle, get it right through the bomb hole, and all should be fine. But Andrew Howard is going to push him right to the end. Him is Derek Johnston. So much success in British GT. And the race was started by his teammate, of course, and his teammate did a fantastic job. That was Marco Sorensen. It's great to have a Danish Aston Martin racer as a teammate. It worked in race 1 for Mark Farmer with Nicky Team. It's working in race 2 this afternoon. Marco Sorensen started and Derek Johnson finished in enormous style, and Andrew Howard has every reason to be proud. He pushed so hard, but the gap he was seeking just didn't come out, and look how close behind. Mark Farmer has done just enough to keep the 3rd Aston Martin in the train behind him, so Flick Haig really pushing at the end, and applause all round. Marcus Sorensen very happy there, and Darren Turner proud of his teammate too. It's good to see. They both will have enjoyed that action. And then Davidson coming across in 5th and Minshaw in 6th, but we think we might hear some more about that because of the contact up at Wilson. But here is, to me, the star of the meeting. Ben Tuck in the 42 Century BMW worked his way up through the order in the second half of this race, and having got ahead in GT4, he's left Lewis Proctor somewhat in his distance, 2 or 3 seconds down, but there's no need to press any harder for Ben Tuck as he comes down to Murray's for the final time. Great race, and for Century Motorsport, they will be delighted, I'm sure, with the form of their cars here. Not one, but both of their cars working very, very well indeed at Snetterton.
That would be a nice, happy celebration to start the bank holiday weekend, I would have thought, because they've done a pretty good job and they've been through the wars as well. And as likewise for this young man, Johnston, fair play for holding Mr. aggressive but smooth driver Andrew Howard.
Yeah, it was lovely, clean racing. It was fabulous racing too. The fact it was really, really clean is better still, and it's good to see Derek Johnson flashing the lights as he comes around. Andrew Howard just dropping back a little bit to probably draw breath in a very hot cockpit, but Aston Martins certainly appear to be the cars to have.
I need to go and interview the drivers, so I will go and draw breath. I'll be back for the Ginetta race in a minute.
Thanks very much. Charlie Butler-Henderson, who will charge down to do the interviews on the grid. Great job alongside me in the commentary box. And they're the winning car for TF Sport. They came here with an 11 and a 17. 11 won the first race and 17 won the second. So honours even in the TF Sport garage. And just to reiterate, in GT4 it was the 42 BMW. Well, let's have a look overall. Johnson and Sorensen. Johnson brought it home by 0.5 of a second. Clear of Andrew Howard. Mark Farmer making it an Aston Martin 1-2-3. Flick Haig making it 1-2-3-4, and Davidson bringing it home 1-2-3-4-5, but John Minshaw may have something to say about that after the contact up at the Wilson hairpin that dropped him back to 6th overall. Jordan Witt came forward and moved ahead of Lee Mole in the final stage of the race to take 7 in his Nissan. Rick Parfitt Jr. 9th, and Sam DeHaan coming home 10th in the second of the Barwell Lamborghinis. Top in GT4, 11th place overall. It was the 42 BMW of Benz, Tuck and Green, Jordan Albert and Lewis Proctor second, and Will Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones making it 3 makes of Carr in the top 3 positions in GT4. Fantastic racing here today. In fact, we got the vast majority of them through to the finish. Unfortunately, Loggy and McLeod, their Team Parker Racing Bentley, we didn't find out what the problem was, but it was enough to take them out of the race overall. We saw them limping home. But it's been 2 fantastic races here at Snetterton. Enormous amounts of fun.
That was hard.
That was hard. Well, we could see that, and it comes as no surprise. So John Call very pleased. Still got it in you, and in fact, comments like that will make Derek Johnson even more proud of his performance there. That was a very physical afternoon's activity.
That's why we go racing. In every back mark, you followed me through.
Well, there we go. So just some epic racing. Good to see Andrew Howard going in to issue his support as well. And for Derek Johnson, he's obviously on a massive high there, pumping chock full of adrenaline. He enjoyed that. All the better, great to win, all the better to have to fight for it. And earplugs out. Temperature inside the helmet about 100 degrees. So that's Derek's workout. Yes, you had to work for that, most certainly. And Charlie Butler-Henderson very quickly out of the commentary box. He's run over and he's right there with our race winner, with Derek Johnston.
Race winner, well done. What a massive bit of defensive driving, and you've earned your money there, haven't you?
Oh, tell me, you made me work hard for that. I'd just gap him like a couple of car lengths, and then we'd hit back markers, and I'd leave it late to pass him, thought there's no way he's coming through. And I just barreled through. I'm like, oh no, wait till the next one, same again. He never gave an inch from the back mark. I thought, at least I'll get a gap, never did. He kept me honest the whole race.
He looked like he was slightly stronger on the brakes than you. I don't know from a driver's point of view whether you'd agree with that, but it looked like it from the cameras. was that he just caught you on those tiny, some of the sharper corners.
So when I hit the brakes hard, my back end was twitching.
Right.
I don't know whether it's Marco's wrecked the tyres or not. He drives hard. He drives hard, doesn't he? Yeah. And so, yeah, nearing the second half of the stint, I really had a problem on the brakes catching. And I thought, there's no way I want to chuck it off here as long as I go defensive and then get a back marker. But the plan of getting a back marker never worked. Yeah. It just come straight through. Anyway, it was a great race. I loved tussling with him. It was awesome.
Most of the back markers happened around Coram. You had to pass them around the outside of Coram.
Outside, there's no grip, and you think, oh shit! And has he seen me? Is he going to?
Apologies for the language.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it was so difficult, but you've just got to try, haven't you?
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Top man. Really well driven. Very, very impressed. Okay, right. So let's back to. I'm just trying to find the GT4 driver there. Bruce, I'm going to hand back to you while I find the GT4 driver. So
thank you, Charlie. It's the number 42 car. He's looking for the two Bens, Tuck and Green. I tell you what, they're probably almost on the podium because they're very quick to put them up there. So I think you have to beetle back in the other direction, Charlie. But handshakes all round for Century Motorsport. They will be very, very pleased indeed. There's Ben Tuck, who I think, to me, he gets the feathers in his cap for this weekend. And Ben Green did a great first half of the race where it's much harder to make up ground. All the cars are really close together. But I think we're starting to see the arrival of BMWs in GT4 in a big way in the British Championship. It's happened over in Europe, but there's Charlie Butler Henderson. He's quick and he's managed to catch up with at least one of the Bens.
Come this way.
Charlie, off you go.
Okay, right, so we've got Ben and Ben. Well done, GT4 winners, yeah? Yep. Good stuff. At last, that BMW will look like it was on rails. Talk us through how it feels to win.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling finally to actually get the win, and yeah, the car was just absolutely brilliant. You know, Century and BMW, as I said earlier, done a great job. We got unlucky in the first race with the safety car, but this time we knew our pace would come through, and Ben did a brilliant job in the first drive. You know, made a couple places up. That's all we could have hoped, is that he would have held his position, but even made places up, and then yeah, picking off those drivers at the end was quite good fun.
Because the car looks quite top heavy in comparison to some of the Astons and the McLarens. From a handling point of view, you've just proved me wrong and everyone else wrong, because it looked like it was awesome. Do you guys get on well as teammates?
Yeah, we know each other from college and from work as well. The car was fantastic today. It's definitely the best we've had it set up. We've had good pace all year, but today we really nailed it in both races, I think.
Guys, well done. Go and get yourself a well done glass of champagne. Well done. Bruce, back to you.
Thank you very much. They were the two Bens, Ben Green, who started the race, and Ben Tuck, talking about their Century Motorsport BMW. And there it is. No such no thing prettier than a race-winning car. So, looking at the championship for the team's point of view, it's TF Sport with wins in both races, extending their advantage over Barwell. So, quite a tidy advantage. ERC Sport, just the one entry. They didn't feature at the sharp end today. Down to third place, and with no further ado, up onto the podium we've got the third place crew, which is Nicky Team on the right, and alongside him Mark Farmer. They're in the white overalls. Then the Beechdean crew, Andrew Howard on the top step, or up on the step, Darren Turner joining him, and there are the winners up onto the top step. Marco Sorensen on the left, and Derek Johnson, well, he was on the left. Derek Johnson's assumed that position. He can't run out of people to hug and be happy with, because that's why Andrew Howard and Derek Johnson go racing. Look at the mutual appreciation, beautiful clean racing, and it's certainly made for fantastic television, and people around the Snetterton circuit will have thoroughly enjoyed just their battle alone, let alone what went on with the other 31 cars that came out to play. You can hear the support, the applause from those below, family, friends, teammates, and the spectators as well. Marco Sorensen, international racing driver, and Derek Johnson, who just loves racing in the British GT Championship. And with no more races for them this weekend, it's time for the champagne, and they can really enjoy it. Success in the first race is always good, but you know race 2 is coming around. And you know what? The sun is now shining again. We had that little flurry of rain that caught out a couple of the drivers down around Coram and at Murray. But it's now they can enjoy their glass of champagne or more in the paddock in the sunshine. So great atmosphere down below the podium. They're going to make it quite a wet place indeed. Darren Turner doesn't need a shower tonight. In fact, he does need a shower tonight now. Getting it down his back from Marco Sorensen. We await the presentations for the GT4 runners, and they too had some fantastic battling. And the fastest lap of the race weekend, just the trophy from Sunoco, being presented by Eva Hildebrand of Sunoco, goes to Marco Sorensen, and that was a fantastic lap in the first race. So lots of presentations, and then we'll do it all over again with the GT4 runners.
It's manic down there. There's so many people just trying to get a glimpse of the drivers and get close to the cars, and the heat that's coming off those cars as well. It's immense down there.
Yeah, but we can just hear the hubbub. It's a wonderful, happy, busy environment, which is exactly how it should be. So for all of those drivers, they've had the 2-week races here, but today they had practice in the dry, qualifying in the dry yesterday. The championship's going the right way. We've had the cold, wet start at Alton, just the cold next round at Rocky.
A few flurries of snow.
The following rounds will be run in the full sunshine again. So fantastic action from our GT3 runners, and certainly this was a circuit that suited the Aston Martins.
Yeah, so we're just about to see, so we've got Joe Osborne's got his back to us on the left, we can't just see him now actually, but Andy Howard there, the young ladies on the podium getting ready for the photo shoots and the champagne.
Well, the first crew we should be welcoming up should be the 62 crew, which is the Academy of Motorsport Aston Martin crew. Will Moore on the tall figure on the left, and Matt Nicol-Jones. Raced together really quite a few years now in their Aston Martin.
I'm either
and the McLaren crew that come up in second place, it's the number 5 crew, which is Lewis Proctor and Jordan Albert.
We saw that quite a lot, didn't we?
And listen to the applause. They've obviously got very large families, the two Bens, Ben Green and Tuck, as they work their way through to the front, but Century Motorsport, I think, providing quite a lot of cheer as well.
That BMW did look like it was on rails, didn't it? It did look really, really good. Throughout the whole race, it stayed consistent the whole time, and they're really good friends as well, as I've just asked, so good to get on well with your teammate.
And with the last crew that coming up at the 501 crew, they've had so many podiums. It's the Balfour Motorsport McLaren crew, Graham Johnson and Mike Robinson, so much success in the championship, and they came through as the 4th overall in GT4, but they won the Pro-Am class in that. That's why they're the 4th crew up on the podium. But over the past 2 seasons, they've had so much success in British GT racing. GT4 champions back in 2016. And the drivers know precisely what comes next. There are some further presentations, but I'm afraid they're going to have to wait because it's the spraying of champagne. Ben Tuck is going to have to clean his ears now. And our cameraman as well has taken a dousing.
Travelling home with champagne all over you from being on the podium after the races that I've won over the years, it really is smelly, sticky and horrible. And the suit goes straight to the dry cleaners and gets washed the next day. But otherwise, it starts to...
Yes, woe betide you if you don't.
Yeah.
So, a couple of fantastic GT races here at Snetterton. Weather has been brilliant, so let us take a look at the highlights. And it was Nicky Team starting from the front row. Alongside him will be Phil Keane, Aston Martin ahead of Lamborghini. And it really was ahead of Lamborghini because, in fact, the second Aston Martin went up the inside. Marco Sorensen followed his fellow Dane through into second place, and that was to the delight of Derek Johnson. He knew he'd be taking over that 17 Aston Martin at the halfway point in the race. Beautiful, clean driving early on, but unfortunately a little bit of a clash there, and we had the track club McLaren going around on 3.5 wheels. And the 43 BMW working its way to the front, past the Academy Aston Martin, but very clean driving by and large. Then unfortunately the 42 car went for a spin. We might see some more of that later in the race. And then a bit of a moment for the 54 Ultra Tech Nissan, almost in the pit lane, and the Mercedes that put him there then paid the price and went to the outside of the circuit. Then came the start of the pit stops. We've seen a few teams making a bit of a mess of them in the first race, losing important seconds, but then the extra 10 seconds in the pit stop for the number 11 Aston Martin was just not quite enough for the Lamborghini to go through. That had a slightly smaller time penalty from race 1. But the story of the race was Andrew Howard starting to give chase. Darren Turner egged his teammate on, and there was a bit too much pushing up at the hairpin. Poor John Minshaw being taken for a spin. But up front, Derek Johnson came through to win by half a second from Andrew Howard. That's all from us from the British GT Championship here at Snetterton. Do join us next time up. Goodbye.